Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mid-Morning. We'll begin this morning talking about Lyme disease. It is the most common tick-borne disease in the United States, and cases are increasing. Now, researchers are looking for volunteers in the U.S. and Europe to test a new vaccine to prevent Lyme. Michael George has more on that.
When Robert Terwilliger heard about a study testing a vaccine for Lyme disease, he rolled up his sleeve. He enjoys hunting and hiking.
I'm hoping it works. This way I won't have no worries, you know. I can go out in the woods and enjoy myself, and if I find a tick on me, okay, I'm good. I don't have to worry about anything, you know, because it's always a worry.
U.S.-based Pfizer and a French biotech company developed the experimental vaccine known as VLA15, which aims to block a tick from transmitting the infection when it bites.
It's a vaccine that's designed to prevent Lyme disease caused by the 6 most common types of Lyme bacteria in both the US and Europe.
Deer ticks carry the bacteria that causes Lyme. Symptoms include fever, headache, fatigue. For some, the first sign is a red, round bullseye rash. Infection can spread to joints, the heart, and the nervous system if not treated. CDC estimates suggest around 476,000 people get Lyme disease each year in the U.S. Researchers hope to enroll at least 6,000 people in areas where Lyme disease is common, such as the Northeast. Volunteers can be as young as 5 years old.
Ever since we learned of this trial several months ago, we've had people on a waiting list waiting to be notified. So absolutely, we have people who are interested.
In earlier studies, the companies reported a good immune response and no problems with safety. The next phase will test if the vaccine is effective and safe. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Participants will receive 3 doses between now and next spring, and then a booster a year later. Equifax sent lenders incorrect credit scores for millions of people this past spring. The company announced a tech glitch that may have kept some consumers from getting loans, and experts say it's a reminder that consumers should routinely check their credit history for any suspicious activity or errors. Jen Sullivan has a closer look at what to look out for and what to do if you were impacted by this Equifax issue.
Equifax is reeling from a tech glitch earlier this year, which could have led to higher rates for some or even prevented others from getting loans.
In 31 years in this industry, I've never seen anything like this happen.
The credit giant says it sent lenders incorrect credit scores for millions of people in the spring during a period of about 3 weeks, blaming it on a coding issue.
This has nothing to do with data breaches. This has nothing to do with erroneous information.
Credit expert John Olsheimer says some of those errors were pretty significant. According to Equifax, 300,000 consumers saw a differential of at least 25 points. But the company said there was no shift in the vast majority of scores and that credit reports were not affected. So, how do you find out if you're impacted? Experts say getting a denial letter is the first clue.
Is if they actually did apply for some form of credit during March and April of this year, and they were denied, or what's referred to as being adversely approved, meaning that they were approved, but they did not get the lender's best terms.
It's always best advice to constantly check reports from all 3 major credit bureaus. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian are letting consumers check their credit reports for free once a week through the end of 2022 at annualcreditreport.com. Then experts say take inventory, check for any suspicious activity or errors, any information that doesn't belong to you, and then challenge the credit firms to investigate. For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Now, if you were denied credit or adversely approved during March or April of this year, experts recommend trying to get some sort of a remedy from your lender. And if you did not apply during that period of time, experts say you probably were not affected at all. All right, a little later, one of the brightest stars of tennis looks to her future. We'll have that story ahead on Mid-Morning. Being part of a sports team is a good way to help keep kids active, allow them to make friends, learn teamwork, and have fun. But it can be hard to figure out which sport fits best with a child. Mandy Gaither has more on what parents should know about making that decision.
The fall sports season has kicked off. Taking part can be fun and healthy.
Keep physical fitness for children a positive experience.
Pediatric sports medicine Dr. Elizabeth Davis with Orlando Health says the best way to get your child interested in a sport is to let them choose.
If a child sees on TV gymnastics or figure skating or football, and they decide, I want to try that, let them try that.
If your child doesn't have a preference, Davis says parents should let them try several sports.
Sign them up for a few lessons and see if they like it. If they like it, great, they can stick with it. If they don't like it, then it's something that you don't have to sign them up for the next season, and then they can move on to something else.
At times, children may lose interest in a sport. Davis says a parent will always know best, but in general, children should honor their commitment.
You really should encourage your child, unless they're in a dangerous situation or they're getting hurt or you're really concerned for their safety, that they really do need to finish the season.
Since not everyone does well on a team, Davis says kids can also try a sport that's more individualized, like swimming, golf, or tennis.
You're still going to see the same benefits from a health perspective, because they're still having to practice, they're still having to exert themselves and get that physical activity.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Now, of course, sometimes it's hard to know when to start a child in a sport. Davis says it's usually best to start them when they can follow directions and their attention span is longer. She suggests around the age of 4 years old. Well, Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes ever, began her journey as a small child. Williams says she's getting ready to leave tennis. The 23-time Grand Slam champion revealed her plan to retire in Vogue magazine. She'll be 41 years old next month. Williams wrote, quote, "It's the hardest thing that I could ever imagine. I hate it. I don't want it to be over, but at the same time, I'm ready for what's next," end quote. Jamie Yukas has more.
Serena Williams has lived her life on the tennis courts, dominating opponent after opponent, collecting 23 Grand Slam titles with 6 U.S. Open titles, 7 Wimbledon championships, and then some along the way. Yet on Monday, Williams celebrated a smaller accomplishment, her first win in more than a year.
It was a nice for Serena there, acknowledging just how tough of a battle it was.
I guess there's just a light at the end of the tunnel.
While still planning to play in the U.S. Open later this month, Williams hinted to the world she was ready for the conclusion of her tennis career.
I love playing, though. It's amazing, but, you know, it's like, I can't do this forever.
ESPN and Scape writer at large and columnist William C. Roden.
Her mind, her spirit would love to keep playing, but she realized her body is just saying, I'm done. I don't think that the benevolence was like first and foremost in her mind, oh, let's let the younger generation, because she would love to crush them. But she just realized that she probably cannot perform at that championship level anymore.
Williams announced her intentions in a cover story in Vogue, the magazine run by her friend, editor-in-chief Anna Wintour. Serena has become an icon, redefining the sport of tennis.
Serena, you're right!
In 1999, at the age of 17, Williams became the first African-American woman to win a Grand Slam singles title since Althea Gibson did it in 1958. There were so many matches I won because something made me angry or someone counted me out. That drove me. I've built a career on channeling anger and negativity and turning it into something good.
She's one of the greatest competitors I've ever seen of any sport.
In her nearly 3,000-word essay, Williams said having to choose between her sports career and having another child was unfair. This is it, the end of a story that started in Compton, California, with a little black girl who just wanted to play tennis. That little black girl, now a grown woman, a legendary figure, and a mom who, for now, just wants one thing.
Freedom. Yeah.
Jamie Yukas, CBS News.
Now, Forbes estimates Serena Williams pulls in $45 million a year in business deals and endorsements, making her the second highest paid female athlete behind Naomi Osaka. Williams' sister, Venus, ranks third. A sports program in Chicago is going to the mat for kids from underserved communities, teaching them to be champions in competition and in life. Here's CBS's Charlie DeMar with Unifying America.
Where Roy Phelps lives, wrestling has a bit of an image problem.
There aren't many black people or people of color.
He's from Chicago's South Side.
2 of my best friends were killed due to gun violence.
But everything changed for him when the 15-year-old found wrestling through a group called Beat the Streets.
I want to be better than I was at the beginning of the day, and I thought wrestling was a way that helped.
The program uses one of the world's oldest sports to teach lessons kids can use on and off the mat. Mike Powell runs the Chicago chapter.
What is a success for you?
Creating life champions. A life champion to us is somebody who has changed their lives, the way they function, their futures, right?
When it comes to diversity, wrestling lags badly behind other college sports. A recent survey found about 7% of Division I wrestlers are black, compared to 48% of players in football and 56% in basketball.
Being a minority in any sport is very different. You kind of don't know your place.
Ed Ruth won 3 NCAA championships at Penn State. Now he shows young wrestlers of color what's possible.
What I'm doing is actually making a difference.
That's got to make it worth it for you.
That makes it worth it.
Roy Phelps is already seeing the results. Charlie DeMar, CBS News, Chicago.
All right, when we come back, Mississippi author Joe Lee on his latest book will tell you how to get a signed copy next on Mid-Morning. All right, welcome back, everyone. If you've been waiting to return to Oakdale, you're about to be rewarded. Author Joe Lee has a new novel featuring a young sheriff's deputy with a familiar name. The novel is Resting Place. Joe will be signing copies of his book on Thursday in Starkville, and we will let you know how to find him and the book in a few minutes. But let's first talk to the author. Great to have you back with us.
It's good to see you.
So give us sort of a synopsis of this story, which, as I understand, is a prequel, the book is.
It is. Now, Oakdale has been my backdrop. This is for 7 novels. Think real-life Tupelo with small towns like New Albany, Ripley, Pontotoc around it. Towns of about that size.
Okay.
And there are references to real-life Tupelo being about 30 minutes away. Old money. Everybody up in everybody's business. Lots of dysfunction and lots of crime. That's what
We're familiar with that storyline.
Oh yeah, it sounds like home, doesn't
it? Yes.
I built the series that way, and I've already been asked why 1984. The book begins with a traffic stop that I went through. Now, I was raised to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, especially to anybody in law enforcement. But I took that traffic stop and ran with it, and put in a constable who in real life made the traffic stop, but I just ran with that. The protagonist is a young man named Mark Myrick III. What's interesting about this book is that there's something brewing, if you will, deep in the woods of Smart County. A lot of very powerful people are making some money, and there's crime involved. What I had great fun doing was putting in a character from a novel that I wrote recently called Director's Cut, a sheriff named Billy Joe Stone. And since we're in 1984, I made him sheriff's deputy. And he, like the young man who is in the traffic stop, they are put in situations where they have to make choices. Good versus evil, I guess. And what we do is we come down the stretch of the book. Everybody you meet at the beginning, the constable, the sheriff's deputy, and this youngster are tied together.
So there's so many different storylines in our great state of Mississippi. Why focus on something surrounding law enforcement and sort of old money and trying to find some little delicate crime that's going on there?
It strikes me as relevant. You know, there's dysfunction in every family. There's more crime than all of us wish there was out in society. And money, for better or worse, drives a lot of people, some in good directions and some in bad directions. And I love putting good people in situations where they have to make a choice and try to get themselves out of something bad.
One of the cool things about the process of writing this book and preparing to get this story on paper is you interviewed former sheriff in Ottawa County, right?
Dolph Bryan was sheriff. Gosh, I went to high school at Starkville High. He'd already been in office for a few years.
I think he became sheriff the year I was born. I'm just going to say that.
I wasn't, you know, too much ahead of that. And I think his last term ended in 2008. But he was the first person I thought of about first of all, what could I do which would create a corruption scam that could make a lot of people rich around the state and into some reaches of the political scene.
He said, sit down, let's talk.
And also, once I told him about the young sheriff's deputy I wanted to include, how would he go about learning what he did, because that sheriff's deputy is put in a tough spot. If he doesn't go after what he's been told is happening, maybe he becomes the target himself. We talked a lot about what he might be able to do to solve the crime.
Well, we're not going to give you any spoilers here, but you can mark your calendar for Thursday, August the 11th. Joe will be at the Starkville Public Library at noon. You can stop by the Starkville Book Mart on Main Street at 5 for a book signing and a reading even at 5:30. First edition signed copies will be available at both locations. You can also reserve a copy there at the number you see on your screen, 662-323-2844. Again, that's Thursday, August the 11th, and you can go to either that or the Book Mart, the library or the Book Mart. Great to have you here. Congratulations.
Thanks,
we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Almost 1 in 5 American veterans who were deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. One former British soldier has found a unique way to rebuild after the trauma of his service tore his life apart. Roxana Sabiri visited him in Wales to see how he is now helping others.
Day after day, Mikey Allen hauls stone after heavy stone, and log after log up a mountain in Wales.
So this is it? Yeah, this is the castle I've been building now for the last 3 years.
Allen didn't plan to build a castle at first, but as the foundation took shape, he began rebuilding something else, his spirit.
The goal has created some form of hope. It's kept me alive to a certain degree. Kept you alive?
Yeah, I think so. Skill and luck kept him alive when he served with the British Army in Afghanistan over a decade ago. But death was never distant. One day on patrol, he saw an Afghan police officer step on a Taliban mine.
What happened then? There's a big explosion. Me and my colleague went sideways, getting across the floor. Best way to describe it, looked like his legs had been stuck together with super glue, just all different directions. His torso was twisted sideways.
Back in Wales, Allen suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder.
You come back and you feel a different person.
He left the army and turned to drinking and drugs. His marriage broke down, and one day, so did he.
And that's when I just kept eating painkillers and eating them, with the hope not to wake up. But you woke up? I woke up the next day, and that's when things went really bad, though, to be honest.
Homeless, Allen searched for solace in the solitude of these mountains. He made a wooden cabin, but within months, local authorities demolished it, sending him spiraling again. Then a nearby farming family learned of Allen's plight and gave him a chance to start over on their land. As Allen pushed his body to its limits, carrying up to 130 pounds of stone at a time, and chopping logs, barely resting, he found purpose and calm.
Putting the stone together is like mindfulness, like a giant jigsaw, so you can kind of just forget, be in the moment. Yep, please.
And he found love again. Rachel Whiting lost her husband, who was also in the military, to suicide in 2011.
For me, that night, it was complete and utter hell. It's a pain that'll never go.
Has this place helped at all?
Being here and helping him and him helping me, we've grown so much. And even when I feel like I don't want to do much and I'm having one of those days, you'll say, "You sure you don't want to chop a tree down with me? Are you sure you don't want to come down and just try one stone run? Come on." "Oh, all right."
And 3, 2, 1.
As the castle has grown, their community has too.
Up. Down.
Each week, around 100 people visit. Local residents, other troubled veterans, strangers inspired by the 42-year-old. Through his charity called Index, Allen offers fitness sessions, skills training, counseling, a sanctuary nestled in nature, and hope.
As bad as things are, there's always a future. It's that belief. The belief is important.
Trauma therapist Gareth Noble says, like his friend Allen, we all face adversity. How we overcome it is up to us.
Do we need to build a castle?
A castle in our head, a castle in here.
Nice.
Alan now lives in a nearby village, but his journey goes on.
I think I'm still in the healing process to a certain degree.
What will it take for you to feel that you've healed?
There won't be need for me to keep doing this.
He plans to finish the third and final floor in the coming months. More space for more healing. Roxana Saberi in the Sir Howie Valley, Wales.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back to wrap things up. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We always love to hear from you. We'll see you back here next time.